In the Western horror, you run from the darkness. In the East, you run from the red. Usually, red is life, luck, the fire of wedding day. But in Where Wings Meet, red is a warning. Meet Ghostmaster. He strikes with the brutality of a demon, yet he wears a tattered, brutal gown. He isn't a cross-dresser, and he isn't waiting for a lover. He is wearing this skin for a victim, mimicking the woman forced to marry a dead man to lure in his prey. This is the story of Minghun, ghost marriage, an Asian industry where a woman's value went up after she died. Before the mask and madness, the ghost master has a human name, Jiang Kui. He was just a boy who loved his sister. In the lore, she was his shield. He recalls a memory from he was 5. His father came home beaten by the debt collectors. Looking for someone to venom his rage, it was his sister who stood in the way. The scar on her forehead, that was the receipt for his safety. He once asked, "Where's his mother?" The truth was simple. Mother ran away to survive. In that house, staying meant death. His sister could have run too, but she looked at her little brother, too young to fend for himself, and she couldn't leave. He remembered carving a wooden hairpin for her, a plum blossom. It was a clumsy work, curved by a 10-year-old's hand, but she told him it was the most beautiful flower in the world. One day, the sister vanished. The family suddenly rich. They had new clothes, good food. When young Jiang Kui asked where she went, they said she got married. Married to whom? To a dead man. It wasn't just desperation, it was greed. In the story, his uncle leans against the wall, toying with a new golden ring and sneers. Such a profitable trade. Isn't it a pity we can only do it once? That was the moment the cold settled into Jiang Kui's bones. Driven by the need for answers, Jiang Kui made a choice. He put on wedding dress, he painted his face, he disguised himself as a ghost bride to lure out the traffickers. Every time the sedan chair landed, the ghost matchmakers approached. To them, lifting the curtain was just like unwrapping a gift. Just checking the merchandise. But when they peeled back the red silk, they didn't find a helpless girl. They find a blade. But the vengeance is a lonely road, and the mind has a way of fracturing to protect itself. For years, Jiang Kui believed he wasn't alone. He believed he had rescued a girl, a survivor who held an umbrella over his head in the rain and listened to his stories to keep him sane. But in the story's end, he finally finds his sister's grave. He digs through the mud and pulls out that wooden hairpin, the imperfect plum blossom. He turned around to share his moment with the girl, and there's no one there. There was no girl holding the umbrella. There was no companion. The warmth he felt on his shoulder was just the rain. He has been walking through the blood and mud completely alone for years. The ghost master isn't a monster. He is a boy whose mind shattered because he couldn't accept that he was the only one left alive in a world that eats people. Jiang Kui's nightmare wasn't an isolated accident, and his sister wasn't the only victim. If you record my lore deep dive on Luna Goddess, she stood on the exact same precipice. But her story was rewritten by fated encounter, a destiny changed by single chance meeting. In this ancient market, human bodies were stocks. Skeletal remains, they call it dry goods. Cheap, low tier, but fresh bodies, those were wet goods. The fresher the death, the higher the price. This obsession leads to the red and white crash, a wedding procession colliding with a funeral. Joy meets grief, red meets white. It's visually stunning but morally bankrupt. It represents the ultimate trap. She is suspended forever in the sedan chair, courted by fake wedding and real murder. So the hunting question, does this still happen in modern China? The official answer is no. The honest answer is the industry is dead, but the ghosts are hard to exorcise. Why did this 3,000 years old custom largely vanish? It wasn't magic, it was a war fought on three fronts. First, the law. The government finally drew a hard line. What was once tradition is now felony. The state decided that culture is no longer excuse for barbarism. Second, the light. Education killed fear. We stopped believing that an unmarried aunt brings bad luck. When you kill the fear, you starve the beast. But the shadow persists for one dark economic reason. Decades of one-child policy and cultural preference for sons created millions of bare benches. Men facing a future without a partner due to massive gender gap. This scarcity creates terrifying market. In the deepest corner, desperation of living fuels the trade of death. As long as there's a lonely soul willing to pay, the embers are hard to extinguish. However, the ultimate force that breaks the circle is the rise of a woman. Despite economic pressure, the core logic has crumbled. Ghost marriage relied on a toxic idea that woman is only inventory for a family tree. That foundation is almost gone. The market is collapsing because the goods finally become human beings. Modernity doesn't erase history overnight. It builds on the top of it. While the city lives in the future, old habits die hard in the dark. This story is being told not for the sake of horror, but as a cautionary tale. A reminder of what's happened when we value tradition over humanity. The darkness has receded, yes, but we keep the lights on, just in case. If you enjoy this glimpse into Eastern darkness, please leave like and subscribe. Before I go, in the midst of all this tragedy, there is a spark. Perfectly capture the spirit of female warriors in Will Wingsmith. I leave you with this. It's about looking at a god, or a system, or destiny tell you to kneel, and drawing your blade.
飞来找我的观音，
谁在怕一个女子成为野心家？去梦去追去问一句话，先生与我有何不同？困我身，举着牌匾叫我地如尘，拘我魂，条条规矩叫我认了吞。想我的前程，
文还能称得上
迈不出家
未央承认你就是在跳舞，恭尽废的丧家犬把你赶了出来。
深的走完这一生，可是我听见风来自海上和天空。 说别低头，低头别入牢笼。你是海浪，也是长风，怎可以上锁呢？
当真无声啊！
不服，关不住，是我眼中的刀锋。这世界容不下，那就自不踏吧。我的苦修，我的疼痛，终将转身，赞颂我野心家。一个女子成为野。
现在还觉得此局是你胜了，好死无言，侠，问其手。我辈毕生所求，无非气之奇巧，术之精绝，时逢乱世而出，一朝纵横天下。这条路执迷太强。 不 伐无罪之国，不奉无道之君。
双手依然洁白，唯有天真的人永不败。第几次站上了月台，远方都在。
要是连我都不回去，那其他人会怎么样？
我的风来自海上和天空，他说别低头，低头便入牢笼。你是海浪，也是长风，怎可以闪错呢？那驯不服，管不住，是我眼中的刀锋。这世界容不下，那就刺破它吧。我的苦修，我的疼痛，终将转身赞颂我野心家。一个女子成为野心家，他们笑我是因为害怕我孤单啊。不忍命算一种野心吗？那我就是天生野心家。去梦去追去问一句话，牺牲于我有何不同？我是我最大的野心啊！踏黄沙闯霓虹，生人赶路也无空。我是我最爱的野心家，若世界容不下，去撞破它，成为我，去驯服它，必是我，去告诉他何为我。